Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am super excited about this one. I am not gonna lie because I think this our guest tonight is awesome. So
Oh, thank
hey,
you.
Suzanne Eckstein. I hope I said that right. If not, I'm sorry. I am so excited to have you and welcome. Squad Bob is on as well, although he's in our past somewhere. I know technically it's tomorrow where you are because Melissa Jane is in Australia,
Yep.
so she's in my future, but you're in the past somewhere,
hmm
dude. Oh, I don't I don't know where you are. Um, Ala Grande, I'm finally getting used to saying the new handle. Welcome. Vicky T, hello. I'm excited to see you. Linda DB, as always, appreciate you. I'm very excited. And expert, big screen HD, so excited. I don't know if that makes me feel better or if it scares me just a little bit.
Yeah, I know, right?
Great Dane Mom 2015. Love Great Danes. I have boxers. Great Danes are related to boxers, so gotta love those. And I think, hello Terry K, welcome. Lori M, welcome as well. I am very, very excited. In case you are new here, hey Diane, welcome to see you as well. My name is Tish. Happen to live in Tennessee. Just kind of came together as a channel. I do lives on at 5 o'clock on Eastern time. I'm sorry, 5 Central Time, 6 Eastern on Sunday afternoons. And this is a very laid back show, very laid back channel. If you want to check out some other content, please do. And I am so excited to welcome to the show Melissa Jane. And
Thanks for
I am
having
going to
me.
let you tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of have a conversation about something I am terrible at, which is art. So I think this is going to be amazing.
Well, yeah, I'm just Mel. I'm just here in Sydney, Australia. I'm a photographer. I do that as a full-time job. I do real estate photography. Yeah, I also do wall art, and I also have a YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel is basically doing reactions, and I do a lot of shorts. So yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of your shorts are just amazing. I was telling her a little while ago, I was watching and I'm just gonna go ahead and play one of the shorts
Yeah, go for it.
because I think it's amazing. I look at this and I literally see a donut and she turns it into something else. So let's show another one.
Merry Christmas.
Oh my, my advent
Hmm.
calendar.
So, Wednesday number 25. um, Go on.
The advent calendars were amazing. So and just as full disclaimer there, I literally showed these to my granddaughters every day. I would forward it to it, and they thought it was a really exciting way to kind of count down to Christmas. So thank you
Ah,
for that. I
thank
have
you.
10
No,
grandkids, and
thank
even
you.
the adults to the little ones liked it. But hey, expert, love them, yes. So so you're a photographer in real life. It's funny how we
Mhm.
forget all of us have real lives, right?
I know.
It's like we do YouTube, but then we actually have that pesky little daytime job that we have to go
hmm
to. But you're a real estate photographer during your real job, and then on the side you're doing YouTube as well as you're doing everything else.
hmm
Allegra, yeah, I've got the link off of her channel. If you find that that's different, let me know because I went and took it off of YouTube. The advent calendar is amazing. So when I looked at the short, especially with the donut, I see a donut on the floor. Okay, and obviously I've not missed a lot of donuts, so I'm thinking, okay, so how do you decide to turn that into a short? Just
well, because I also have my Instagram account, and so
mhm,
before I started YouTube, I'd actually filmed the first part of that like short. So when I was actually doing the actual like photography for it, I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe I might turn this into a reel. So I just
okay,
filmed that first bit. So I had that first bit saved for like months, and then I actually didn't even like actually work through the actual images I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like a whole photo shoot. So I did that donut and the donut with the love heart in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I'd shot them, and I just left all the raw images for months, and I didn't work on them because it was during, all the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff.
Right,
I'm just
right.
like, oh, you know what? I'll just get to it later. I'll get to it later. And I never got to it until like months down the road. And then when I actually finished it, I'm like, oh, hey, like maybe I might turn this into like a reel or a short, and then, just put it into, one whole thing. So,
One whole
and then,
thing, yeah.
it turned out pretty cool.
It did turn out pretty cool. So so you said you did Instagram first before you
Yep.
went into YouTube. So what made you decide to start doing Instagram? What made you decide to start? Let's start there. So where you're, and I mean, I think it's amazing people that take real estate pictures too, because you make your houses look a lot better than, you're like, wait, I would buy that
Yeah.
house. And you realize, wait, it's my
And
own
then-
house that they're taking pictures of. It doesn't look like that
Yeah, it's
normally.
so funny. Like when people find out what I do, they're like, so you're the one that makes houses look like 10 times better than what they actually do.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
You're like, maybe I don't want to
A
move.
lot of it is
after
the lens
seeing
and the
her house.
retouching, not just me.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I don't want to move after I see some of the
Yeah.
photographers
You know
of some of
what?
the house that I've done.
Surprisingly enough, so like agents, like real estate agents will come back to me later when they'll see me again. They're like, oh my God, the vendors absolutely love the photos. Now they don't want to move. And I'm like, sorry.
So you do that during the day in Australia, of course. And we're going to talk about
Yes.
Australia here in a second.
Yep.
I know a lot of people want to say Australia doesn't exist, kind of like birds, but it absolutely does exist.
Yes.
And
It
Melissa
does.
Jane is
Magical
proof that it
fairyland.
exists. Yeah, it's a magical fairyland with but most fairylands have like candy and
Yeah.
grandmothers instead of things that can kill you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen some of the spiders. I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
But what made you decide to decide to do something on Instagram that was a little bit more artistic, I guess?
So I'd always had like an actual Instagram where
Okay.
you just post like whatever you're doing, just to post like your day-to-day life. And then I'd also just take like random pictures, just of like my little like details and things like that, stuff that I'd see in houses, stuff that I'd see on the street, and stuff like that. And then when I started doing the real estate photography, I found a love for styling. And then I started to, post more images of my work on my Instagram. And my husband and I had bought our apartment. I started to style it all up. So that's when,
Okay.
my photography, I started to take all the pictures and like detail images of all the styling that I was doing throughout our home. And then I went through sort of like a little bit of a traumatic thing at work, and I decided I wanted to sort of start over again, just to do something with my time. And I wanted just to change my art. And then I just had the thought of, why don't I just use my own photography or take some new stuff to put it up on my walls instead of using other people's stuff. So that's where
When did you know that you wanted to go into photography? How did you even, because I think we all like, oh, this is cool, but you actually go into it, and like you said, the styling. So how did you get into that? Or did you always know that you wanted to do that?
I didn't always know that I wanted to do photography. So when I was in high school, I loved art, but it was always kind of what kind of living are you going to make out of art? Because I like to
Yeah.
draw and do stuff like that. But I was never, like that good at it, but I enjoyed it.
I have a
And,
feeling that
for
she was
like,
that good at it. What do y'all think? I'm going to put up a poll. Who thinks that she is not telling the truth, that she was not good at it? I'm kidding. I bet you are.
I don't have any drawings to show up for. I haven't done any
That's
sketching
okay.
in quite a while. Yeah. So for work experience, I did like photography. Like I went out and did like a week of work experience at like a wedding photography
Okay.
place, and then kind of gave up on the whole photography thing because I could never afford my own camera, and my dad was so precious about his own camera, he would never let me use it.
Probably
So
afraid.
I
I think
always-
it's like my dad, probably afraid you're going to break it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I mean, if I count how many times I dropped my cell phone, I cannot imagine.
Yeah, I was
an
that
actual
child that was
photography.
constantly dropping things and breaking
Yeah.
things. So yeah,
Me
I
too. Me
completely
too.
I completely understand. Even going into young adulthood with borrowing his car, I crashed it. And so it was just like, I couldn't drive the car again until he bought a new car and then gave me that car.
Ah, gotcha. So you borrowed
I
his
didn't
camera.
Yeah.
So you kind of didn't do much with it for a while.
Yeah. And because I liked art, when I left school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I kind of tried a little bit of business and I was like, not really me. And then my boyfriend at the time was like, oh, you're really good at art. I'm at, this place studying. Why don't you come here and try out architecture? And I'm like, all right, cool. Because then I could use all like my drawing skills. Because back when I did that, you still had to actually manually draw by hand. Because
No
everything now
computers.
is all
Okay.
computers. Everything now
You
is
look like you're
computers, but
20
this
and
I'm
you're
showing.
talking about back in the day, back in the day with computers was like 5 minutes ago,
I know, I'm
right?
giving away I'm
So
giving away my age.
that's okay. So you started doing that.
Yeah, and then, finished all of that, went off and worked in an architectural firm, and they're like, oh, why don't you go study at university? Because like our universities and stuff like that, like it's actually, you pick your thing that you're going to study and that's all you study, but we can do electives.
Oh, okay. So
And
here we do everything else. And for the first 2 years, you could say that I'm
Yeah.
going to study, I don't know, trees, and it won't matter because you've got so much. But you're saying there you actually take
whereas here,
classes
yeah,
in
so
what you study.
in
Okay.
Australia, like you actually pick what, so like from being in school, like when you finish your like
Mhm.
high school certificate and do all of your exams, you get sort of like, so when I did it, it was like referred to as like a university index number. So like all of
Okay.
your exams and all your schoolwork and stuff like that went into this number, and that number based on like different universities have different
Okay.
numbers or different scores or whatever to get into different courses. So
Gotcha.
like
Gotcha.
doctor, Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of University, Bachelor of like medicine and all that kind
Medicine.
of stuff.
Yeah.
You need different things to be able to get into it. Like, like Bachelor of Business. And
Okay.
then, you're choosing a specialty before you even really know what you want to do.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So university, trying to study for architecture is really, really hard. And then, while you're doing that, you can also do, as part of your course, you also have to do electives. And for electives,
Okay.
I chose photography. So that's how I
Okay.
ended up getting back into it. And then
Okay. So you think you're going just for architecture,
yeah.
but then you picked back up what you like
Yeah,
wanted
and then
to
so
initially
just
do. Okay.
yeah, just because, like just being creative and just, like wanting to do something. Because I always sort of figured that I'm more like a person that's a bit structured. So architecture kind of suited. So it's kind of using art in a more structured way. But you
Okay.
can still be creative in architecture.
Okay.
And then, so that's when I ended up doing all of the photography stuff and ended up going, oh, I really, really love the photography stuff all over again.
Yeah, found the
And
passion again.
when I had
Yeah.
lost my job in architecture and I couldn't find another one because it was like the GFC or whatever here.
GFC.
I ended up, global financial crisis.
Oh, okay. The crap.
I'm showing my age.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We called it a lot of things, and some things I can't say because YouTube would strike me for the cuss words because I work in the financial services industry in real life. But the 2008 was the first big recession, and then we seem to be in and out of one since. So
Okay. That's pretty much what we refer to it as, like the global financial crisis, so
Gotcha.
GFC. I ended up finding a job at a real estate marketing company of where I was cross-checking. So I was to sit at a computer, and when you go out and to these homes, there's a person there with a sketch pad, like a grid paper and a pen and a little measuring device, and they're actually sketching up homes.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's all. Yeah. So they actually draw up your floor plan of your home, as well as, someone coming in and taking the photos, and then someone coming in and writing a script for the ad.
Oh, wow. Linda DB, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. I'm very
Yay.
excited for that. I've got one of my first members only coming up week after next, and we'll talk a little bit about
That's
that.
exciting.
It's exciting because I just figured out how to do it, but because I'm still relatively new at this myself. So working at the grids, working at the script. So you end up back in
The
photography,
office.
but in the
Yeah.
office.
Yeah. So in
Yeah.
the office, and then, like checking, you know, like floor plans that are done against the road with floor plans that have been, you know, done like overseas and like all sketched up. And then I'm seeing all these
Okay.
photographers and I'm just like,
I can do
I
that.
didn't know this type of job existed. I'm like, I didn't know that, because, you know, like when you're younger, you don't realize what kind of jobs are out there.
No,
And
no,
so,
no.
you know, when I saw going, oh my God, you know, you can have a full-time job being a photographer. I'm like, I can do that. So I went and did, you know, I literally went and bought a $200 camera off eBay. I didn't care what it was. It's just like, I just
As long
needed
as it worked, right?
a camera that worked. And I just started messing around. I did a couple of online courses and then I applied for TAFE. So here, TAFE is probably more like a community college, but it's also
Okay,
something
okay.
that, you know, that, so it's more aligned with trades.
Okay. Yeah,
So
we have a tech,
plumbing,
we
yeah,
call them tech schools. Yeah, where we
yeah.
have,
So a
like, if you're
technical
going to go
college,
for
yeah.
computers or you're going to go work on cars, then you go to the tech school that kind of specializes there. Okay.
Yes. So, like, at the time that I wanted to do photography, that is what was really the place that, you know, that you study photography, because the main campus in the city, like, that had like the best reputation. And like, it was literally, you had to get into this course. You're competing against, you know, like over 400 people.
Oh,
You have to have
wow.
a portfolio with, you know, like 10 examples of your work, and you had to sit down with the teachers for an interview.
Oh, wow. So it's more okay, because here
Yeah.
some of them are very competitive, but some of them are just, here we need tradesmen so much.
Yeah.
One of my actually the oldest grandson does car painting, so of course they're begging him to come because not a lot of people are going into that. So the job,
Yeah.
there's a shortage there. But in this case, it's a very competitive landscape. So
Yeah.
first thing you got to get past is the front door to get in. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so because like there's other sort of like more private colleges and like university courses that you can do photography, but everyone wanted to go to this specific campus and study it. So like not a lot of people out like straight out of high school could actually get into this course.
Okay,
So like
okay.
it's a lot of older people that
Gotcha,
like get
gotcha,
in. So
gotcha.
it's more, you know, like they've already kind of like lived a little bit of a life. So like the ages were
They
probably
kind of
from
settle down
like,
and get an idea that they want to do this versus just kind of falling into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Okay.
you know that you want to do that, and you've also developed a bit of an eye because, you know, like there were a couple of people that were like pretty much straight out of school that were in this course because they had developed an eye. So like
Okay.
with photography, it's one of those things. It's kind of like you've either kind of got an eye for it or you don't. So
Okay.
because, you know, there's a difference between, you know, like,
Like me,
you
I
know,
don't.
all of these like artwork
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
and then, you know, just taking a random photo, or that's, you know, kind of like
Now,
the thing.
I appreciate things like
Yeah.
everything that's in this room, for example, is pretty much has a story behind it. So even the things on the shelves, to the clock that expert was teasing me the other day because it doesn't work. I have an eye for things that I like, but as far as
Yeah.
eye of transforming something, that's a totally different story.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just it's just kind of like I feel really bad. I feel like bad for people that take photos. Oh, I love this photo. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to offend anyone, but, you
That's
know, just sort
okay.
of like people that kind of do photography as a living, they've got like a certain eye and a kind of
Right.
style
Right.
that they kind of follow, and that's that, and they consider that their art.
Well, and you also
So,
take things into something else versus
mm,
something I would just pass. So we have a couple of comments here. Haley Mouse said, I'm secretly listening in one ear while watching TV with my husband. I hate to admit this, so don't tell because he's listening. Yeah, I do that too
I do that
sometimes.
too.
He's like, what do you want to watch? And if I like it, then I'll pay attention. If I don't like it, then
Yeah,
it may be in another ear.
I'm guilty as
Great
well.
Dane Mom says birds don't exist. Yes.
Yep.
Actually, not to plug something on Netflix, but there's a Netflix documentary about spy stuff. That they were talking. It showed this bird spies. I don't know that I could pick them out from a regular bird from a
Oh
distance.
wow.
It's kind of scary. So the White Rabbit said, and welcome. Hope your mom's doing well, by the way. Australia doesn't exist, and at Mail is AI, but we love her. I could believe
Oh,
that.
Oh, I love
Squad
you too,
Bob
right,
says,
Rabbit?
hey, she talks funny. I don't know if he's talking about me or you. Sometimes I'll
That'd be
think,
me.
okay, my accent's not real strong, but then I'll hear myself and I'm like, yes, it is. I was talking about
Sometimes when I
Steve.
talk, I feel like I'm not saying things how I want to say them, so I apologize
Yeah,
if anything
I
that I'm
had a
saying is
stream. I
very
think it was with
confusing.
Chizzy and the expert actually, where I said something. I'm like, oh wow, that is not only Tennessee, that is Middle Tennessee. So it's really funny. The expert, I know you did not say this to me, but I still have to say it just because I think it's funny. At Ball Store, and I have a minor in PE. Of course you do. That was funny. White Rabbit. One of my electives in college was billiards and table tennis. Both of which I could hurt somebody playing, by the way. Teacher didn't like the sound of ping pong balls, so he just played pool. That
Oh, that's
sounds
so funny.
awesome. And White Rabbit again. Tish has a grandson. Not possible. You're too young. Yes, actually, I have 10 grandkids, and I have three great
Wow.
grandkids at this point. They're all boys so far. So, knock on wood. It's like sometimes I get their names mixed up. I always like with my grandmother when she would call me my cousins and think, "How do you do that?" And now that I'm actually doing it, I'm like, "Oh, that's how she did it." Because there's too many of them that sound the
Oh,
same.
it's so funny. Like my husband is one of four boys, and their parents still get them all mixed up. Like
Yeah,
they'll call for
yeah,
one, they're calling the other.
yeah. And you think not named anywhere close to the same, you would not do it, but
Yeah.
I do it all the time. So you go to the essentially the trade college in
Yep.
US speak, and so tell me how that is. It more practical or is it more like learning lighting, that kind of thing?
It's super practical because it's
Okay.
a trade college kind of thing, or like a trade school. Like it's very very practical, very hands on. So you're kind of learning. So you're doing. So the course was essentially 2 days a week, and
Okay.
part time. So you could so if you weren't working in the industry, you could only do the course part time. So I was
Okay.
still working and doing my normal job, but I just took a little bit of time off, like when I could. So I did like one day as a night and one day as sort of like a day. So I worked 4 days a
Okay.
week while studying. And yeah,
Okay.
so you had studio time. So you learnt, all of the studio equipment. So you learnt how to properly light things. You had, like theory classes
Kind of
of
one of
where
those
you
you think
learn.
you thought you knew how to do it until you went to class and you're like, okay, yeah, I have
Yeah.
the
And you're
eye,
like,
but
wow, I
the
really know nothing.
I know nothing, the detail stuff. Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah. So because I had done like a couple of like little online courses that kind of more guide you through um, different ways of using the camera in manual.
Right. Right.
So because like to do most of the stuff that you do, like it's preferable that you have your camera on manual and you learn about your f-stops, you learn about your
Yeah.
apertures, and you learn about like
Or if you're like me,
ISO
you learn
and
where the on button is. So
yeah, you
yeah.
learn about all that kind of stuff. So they go through all that kind of theory, and then you also learn what happens of when your settings are certain settings. So like to get depth of field. So if you want big depth of field, you're using
Okay.
the smaller f-stop numbers, so your aperture is bigger. And then if you want everything to show all in your shot, then you're using your larger f-stop numbers, and like your aperture smaller, and then what the effect of all that kind of stuff is. And you're also learning color theory. Yeah, so you learn full color theory, so you go through color wheels and things like that. You learn
So if you were not really, really interested in it or really, really good at it, it would not be
you'd be
something
very
you would be
bored.
wanting to
No.
go through to have
Yeah,
to
no, you'd
actually
get you'd
just
probably
learn
get
how to
very
take
bored
pictures.
very quickly. And it's so funny because like when I'm on site and things like that, people end
Mhm.
up having questions about what I'm doing, and then I end up being like this full teacher going, "Oh, this
Right.
affects this and
Right.
this affects that and this and this and that, and that's why I do this and this is why I do that." And they're like, "Whoa." And I'm like,
Well,
"Sorry,
it's
didn't
not a
mean to
bad
become a
thing because
teacher."
a lot of times I have my cousin who's also my best friend is in real estate. And a lot of times people will question, why am I paying for this? Why am I paying for that? And in particular,
Mm,
photography, because all they're doing is hitting, you know, the
yeah.
picture and everything's automatic now. When the reality of it is there's
Yeah,
nothing
it's really
automatic
not.
about getting a good picture. I mean, yeah, I got a, well, I know you've probably heard of my lovely little pup Loki that
Yes.
destroys everything in my house. But basically, I have a new phone, and it takes better pictures than I could take on my own, but it's still
Yeah.
not the same as, say, a professional photographer going and seeing a space.
The camera phones are just getting so like good with like the technology, because now you can kind of like make things a little bit more like
Mm-hmm.
wide angle. So you can kind of create the look a little bit more of like what a DSLR does. So you
Okay.
can like I like a lot of this, like a few of the images that I've actually got on my website were actually taken on my phone. But that's because my husband broke my camera while we were traveling.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, not a good thing. So
Yeah, so like
you went from the office to taking pictures,
mhm.
and then where did your Instagram site start?
So I probably it's so long ago. It's so hard to remember. But yeah, so I had the first Instagram account probably when I got bored of Facebook.
Okay.
So that was probably, it would have been a good 10 years. So like a lot of the early stuff is literally just snapshots of, you know, stuff that's going on in life. And that's just as I've like progressed through being a photographer and things like that, that my Instagram has gotten a little bit more like towards all of my photography
Well, if
and
you
not
have not
quite.
checked out her Instagram, this is what this is kind of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, having an eye for things. Just to look at a few pictures that she's done. They're amazing. I mean, even this one where, it's something, these reels that are something very simple. I would get that box and think, okay, this is cool. But I would never think about stopping and being able to turn this into an actual reel. This just shows the talent that you have.
That's why I actually created the behind the scenes of that.
Yeah,
Just
this one.
because so many people, like from the advent calendar, you know, like it was like, oh, how did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, I just did it. So it's like, all
You
right,
like you just did it, and even something just as
yeah.
simple as, you know, feet in the sand with
Oh, that's
horseshoes.
actually
I mean,
that's actually the
on the
floor
floor,
of
on the
a men's
floor.
store.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so do you just take pictures kind of everywhere, or do you find yourself? I love this one. I think this is one of my favorite ones because it reminds me of one of those. Is it Crate and Barrel? I think one of the really high end catalogs. That's what this picture
Yeah, so
reminds me of.
that was just
Yeah.
randomly at work. So like it was a house that had been professionally styled, and I was taking like a overall photo of that room, and I just stopped and I looked down and I'm like, "Oh, that would make a really great photo."
Yeah, or even something
And I just took it on my phone.
like this simple. To me, this would look like a mess, but with you taking a picture of it, it looks amazing. So, yeah. So,
Oh,
do you
believe
just
me, not every photo looks fantastic. It's like 200 photos until it's the right photo sometimes. Because, you know, just trying to get, because I like to have specific angling, and I'm always got an idea in my head of what I want it to look like before I take it. That's why
okay?
sometimes I
Okay,
don't end up taking things, and I'm like, oh no, it's not going to turn out how I want it to turn out.
okay. Got. So when you put one up, it may be 200 or 300 before
Yeah.
you pick one.
I could have taken a lot of photos beforehand. Sometimes it's lucky enough that I'll just take a shot and that's the shot. But a lot of the times it's kind of taking different angles and stuff like that for it to work. It's actually so funny. One of the prints on my website was actually a random photo of me just testing the camera. I didn't
Okay.
because my husband had broken one of my lenses. So I was putting another lens on,
Ah, okay.
and I was playing around with the camera, and I just kind of was just off to the side, and I just went like click like that.
Yeah.
And then I looked through my, you know, all of my photos later. I'm like, oh, hey, that actually wasn't too bad of a shot.
So
And then I
even
kind of
looking through
cropped
your
it down.
photos, because I'm thinking of all the photos that are probably on my phone. That are kind of like that little boy in the commercial where he's like halfway in the air jumping off a diving board saying, "Hey mom, this was 2 years ago. I'm still in here. Are you going to do anything with this photo?" But a lot of times I'll look back too, and the photos that mean the most to me are the ones I probably would have deleted if I'd had a
Yeah.
digital camera now. So how do you decide? I'm sure that you have thousands and thousands and thousands. So how do you decide what you're going to keep and what you're not going to keep?
It's hard. Like I fill up the storage on my phone very, very quickly, and
I'm sure. Yeah.
it's kind of periodically having to go back and then kind of deleting stuff. And a lot of the times I will keep 2 or 3 of the same thing. But then it's also if I've already like edited and fixed up the image, then I'll delete the originals most of the time.
This is New Zealand Mystery said after your husband broke the lens, I hope he slept on the couch that night.
Oh, I tell you what, when my husband broke my camera in New York, I was
wow.
He was really upset with himself because he had broken. So
like you couldn't really be mad at him, even though you should be mad.
Yeah, it was an accident.
Oh,
yeah, it was an accident. So like like when we were in Europe, he had accidentally dropped my bag and the lens sheared. But I could still use my camera. I just had to use a different lens. But the other lens was like my main lens. And I'm like, but I'm like, it's all right. It was a cheap lens anyway, because, like I didn't have a lot of money. So a lot of the gear that I was buying was all secondhand. So probably I think the camera that I was using at my second camera I'd bought off one of the photographers at work. Secondhand. So I had secondhand cameras for a very long time. It was just kind of like... So you
finally get your own, what you want,
that was my own camera, but I'd spent so much on it. So like camera bodies.
So Squad Bod, the lens sheed. So what does sheed mean?
Sheed. So because like you know what? I should probably get a lens, but I haven't got one next to me. So like where you twist it to adjust it. So that breaks apart. So that's where it sheeds.
Okay. So it basically stripped it, probably is what we would say.
Yeah. So the two bits of it have kind of like broken apart. So it's kind of
so you can't turn it. At that point.
So you can't shift it. There's actually like a gap in it, so it won't actually work.
Okay. We got some comments. Expert loves the accents. I'm sure between the two of us, these are definitely opposite of the globe things. Squad Bob wants you to say hair.
Hair.
Was that good for you, Squad Bob?
Did you like that?
Diane Loftus, I love your accent. That's sweet. The expert at the White Rabbit, Tish is from the Nashville area. Lots of brown chickens and running. We laugh about this because every time I go somewhere, everyone asks me how many cows I have. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And because I'm in the South, people think, and I'm Nashville, they think, cowboy hats and cowboy boots. And I don't own a set of cowboy boots or cowboy hats. Terry K, I'll call my grandsons by their father's name. Yeah, I can see that too. So question for you. Do you think you got your talent from your mom, your dad, or neither? I'm adding the neither part. Where do you think your talent came from?
Definitely my mom. My mom is the creative person in the family. She was always like painting and like sculpting and stuff like that. So for a really long time, my mom had this like sculpture that was in the backyard forever. And then she had a fight one day with someone, and she put a face in the sculpture, and the sculpture wasn't quite the same. And like my mom is always so very good at creating things.
Does Mel take pictures? I don't think she may take pictures of hair or feet. Well, we saw feet, and she has hair on when she's taking the pictures. So I think the answer to that would be
technically yes. Yes.
Ballstorm, I need Mel to come take pictures of my house so I can feel better about it.
You know what? Yeah. Part of my service is I actually clean and tidy and move things around, so it's the perfect image.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I was going to ask you I think here we call it staging, where they move things out of the picture or make it look better. I mean... Yeah,
so like I go to like owner-occupied properties, and I also go to like tenanted properties. Mm-hmm. Tenanted properties are normally the more messier properties. So it's like,
how does that conversation go? Like, okay, I want to take pictures of your house. I know that you want to get your best price, so you've got so much junk that needs to get in. How does that conversation work?
Most of the time, that's the agent's job.
Oh, good.
So the real estate agent should actually go. So like be like, oh yeah, I want to sell my house, and say, you've got a lot of stuff everywhere. It should be, it's the real estate agent's responsibility to be like,
Thank
okay,
goodness, because
so
I can imagine saying,
you
"I
you
know
might
that
need
you love
to,
your 10,000 porcelain cats, but
yeah,
you
we might
might
need
want
to
to go
put some
put
of them
those up."
away.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine that would not be a fun
Yeah.
conversation.
And
Um,
so, like when they're booking in the photography and all that kind of stuff and telling them, okay, so this is like when it's going to be, they should
they
run
should
through
have
how
had
it
that
all
conversation.
works and be like, okay, just please try to put everything away. Though some agents probably say just make things tidy, but people's have different interpretations of tidy. So I've
Of
turned
tidy,
up
yeah,
to be
yeah.
like, we've put so much stuff away and you still can't see a
And you're
space on
like,
the bench top.
yeah, no, yeah. So
And
do you
it's
just
just like, and so I walk in and the agent's like, oh no. And I walk in, I'm like, we might need to move a few things. Is that okay with you? And most of the time they're like,
they'll
oh
say
yeah, no, that's
yes.
fine.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
tenants don't want you to touch a thing. We've had to leave places because tenants have just been like, you can't take photos of my things, blah 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 blah. You've got to retouch it all out. Be like, fine, you can take a photo of this room, but you can't take a photo of my TV. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, okay, we just need to breathe
Yeah.
here and restart.
Yeah.
Do you do photography tips, videos, and such for your channel?
No, I don't. It's so funny. I like my channel is something just completely different to all of my actual photography work. But a couple of, so I actually trained up a videographer to help me out because more people need photos than what they do videos because videos are a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
And the guy that they brought in to do video, I had to train him up how to do photos. And he's just like, oh my God, you should make videos on this. He goes, there's nothing about this on
I
YouTube.
think we may have uncovered another business opportunity for you for a workshop. No joke. I mean, you can do workshops for everything on YouTube, whether the person's actually knows what they're doing or not. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be a good idea. Valhalla waits. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Squad Bob, she sends her old pictures to the past where I am. Yeah, Squad Bob,
Yeah.
I think you're stuck back there. And then he's picking on me just a little bit more by saying Tish never said how many cows she has. I don't have any cows, and I hate to disappoint. Actually, I'm terrified of them. My grandparents had them, and I don't want to go anywhere near them. Lady Autumn Sky, hello. I'm just caught up. Glad to see you. So Sandra Ramirez, this is actually a really good question. So Sandra is someone who does a lot with ancestry, and is starting her own channel and actually helps people research. She's saying she's restoring
Oh.
old historical family photos. Do you have a program recommendation? So is there something you would use for storing or editing in particular over something else? So what kind of
I've
program do you use?
So I've never actually used anything for restoration. So I know that like my dad's gone through the process of trying to restore all photos. So that'll be something that I'd have to ask him. But like the
Okay.
main programs that I use is Photoshop and
Okay.
Lightroom. So Lightroom is a great program to work on like raw images in batches. So that program, you can literally you create what's called like a catalog. So you can split your images into sort of like folders, as you say, like,
Okay.
and then you can kind of work on your images, like just like a bunch of images. So say, like I did all the donut prints, the donut
Okay.
images. So I could just create a whole section and save that and just have all of my donut stuff in there. And then I can just work on the donuts without having anything else in there. And I can work on them all in one go. So say I've taken 10 images, I can like highlight different images and then sort of like go through and just work on highlighted images, or I can go back to other images. You can create copies. And
So
so
that's a good
that's,
question. How long does it take you to edit, say, what you put on Instagram? So how much time do you spend taking the shots, which seems like is all the time, and then how much time do you spend on it? Because to me, I'm a perfectionist. So
yeah.
one of the reasons I don't put out regular content on videos as much, well, number one, I had to get a new computer. Thank you, the expert. And no, I have not plugged it in yet. I still have it. It's sitting over here. I will. Is because I was having trouble with an editing program crashing. My computer couldn't run it. But I'm one of those
Oh,
that I would do it 1,000 times, so it would never go up. So how much time do you spend editing, and when do you know, okay, that's good?
Sometimes I never know. Sometimes I
Okay.
literally abandon things because I'm like, nah, it's not good enough. Or like I'll spot something and I'm like, no, I can't stand this certain thing in this photo. And I'm like, no, I just abandon it. But like most of the time for photos that I don't mind, it can probably take, like a couple minutes to probably like 20 minutes. Because sometimes you're trying to adjust like perspectives and
Yeah.
things like that. So that's what was so great at the time of when Instagram introduced it, because it was one of the first like apps of where you could really like edit a photo so
Right.
that you can
Right.
kind of put a like, because before, mainly all we could do was just add filters, but now you can like adjust like your perspective and things like that. So you can level things out. You can adjust the perspective this way, you can adjust perspectives that way. So like
Okay.
sometimes doing that. So like I'm very much a person, if I'm shooting something, like straight on, everything has to be equal. So
Okay.
like different portions have to be equal and things just have to like line up, or like it has to go like has to be certain proportions.
Well, and if no expert, I have not gotten my computer set up yet. I will have it set up by next week, I promise. I am going to share your website though, because I think it's amazing as well. So let's let that come up. So this is Melissa Jane website. The link is in the description. She has original photography prints. So if you're like me and you have walls that still have 0 on them and you don't want to fill them up, I've got one wall with nothing but family pictures, like all the
There's
grandkids,
nothing
all
wrong
the
with that.
dogs. But if you want to something up to make it look a little more interesting, she actually has a website where you can shop prints. I love these. I mean, I think they're phenomenal. So what made you decide to do this? Because I would have never thought, this is something else I never would have thought of that of.
So my husband and I, so that's the donuts where we get them from. That's my husband's favorite donut shop here in
Okay.
Sydney. And
Okay.
so we kind of ended up becoming friends with them. And it was just so funny one day because I don't know where it came from. We got a donut and it was like perfectly round, or like it had such a good shape to it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
because the one thing that I like about my prints is minimalism.
Yeah.
So I
I love
like
that. I think this is my favorite one, which
yeah,
I
like
know
I
is
don't I
not the
don't like
donut,
having
but yeah.
anything overcomplicated. I just want things, so that's why, like I've got subtle colors, they're not too busy and things like that. And then I was just looking at this donut, I'm like, I wonder if I can make a print out of it. So I literally just tested it out on this one donut. And then I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And then like I'm like, maybe I should actually like try and do a series of this. So I just the next time I think I'd like DM them on Instagram. I'm like, oh hey, I've got this really cool idea. And then the picture that I had taken, so I did the full setup on the floor in the kitchen, and I took it actually like how all the rest of them are done. And I'm like, I think this
Okay.
would be a really cool idea. I want to do photos of it. And they're like, you know what? We'll give you the donuts. Come pick donuts. He goes, the only thing that I ask is
Like
if you
free
give us a copy of the
donuts.
prints.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they're
and
like, if you
guys,
give us a copy so we can use it for our Instagram. I'm like, yeah,
art
done.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, you can get this in different paper size. You can pay with Google Pay. I mean, this stuff is amazing. Just if you've got, you know, trying to put things on your own wall, a kid's room, etc. And I love the descriptions that you put in as well. Because you can see even art in that, like unicorns tears was inspired by the love of water. I've never seen a reason to leave dry land, but I do like looking at the water. I love some of these architecture. So you really have kind of a varied um, array style of
Yeah,
subjects.
so like a lot of it was from travel photography. So that was when I was in New York. So it's like a whole mix of, so when I sort of decided that I was going to actually sort of make wall prints, I just kind of went through what I already had and
Okay.
just sort of like messed around with it in Photoshop just to kind of, like reframe things, look at it from a different angle and be like, okay, if I had it up on my wall, what would I want it to look like? So some of those print, like what I created, they were much bigger images and I've just taken a portion out of it. Because
Yeah.
sometimes I'll just randomly take something and I'm not happy with it. But then, you go back and you relook at it and you're like, you know what? I kind of like this one little bit. And, working with raw images, you can do that. Like, because, like the file sizes are so big, you can kind of like go back and blow
Zoom
stuff
down
up and you're
into.
not losing too much of the quality.
And I'm gonna tell you, if you checked out prices on Etsy prints of some of the same things,
I
you need
actually
to
have
go.
everything on Etsy as
You need to go
well.
to Melissa Jane, because some of them I'm like, yeah, that's a little bit much for me. Squad Bob, does Mel use anything in particular for her fabulously famous donuts? Well, we spelled donuts just a little bit differently here. But so yeah, we spell them like this.
Yep.
Expert loves the donut prints, and those are beautiful. Absolutely, they are.
Oh, thank
They're
you.
gorgeous. So let's kind of go forward a little bit to YouTube. So if you are not subscribed to the expert, you need to go sub to him. Not right now, after this is over, please, but you do. He has a Friday night hangout show, and Melissa Jane is on there, and it's hilarious. So if you want something serious and punching you in the gut and mean to people and drama, you don't want to go look at that.
No.
But if you just want to laugh and kind of chill down at the end of your
Yeah.
day,
We're
that
all
is
just making fun of
definitely
each other.
just making fun of each other. So how did you get an expert? I did not tell you I was going to ask this, but that's okay. How did you guys? I'm always interested in how YouTubers find each other. So how did you guys
Yeah.
get acquainted?
I had found him from another live stream. So I'd actually been watching YouTube for years, but I never actually watched streaming until the Johnny Depp trial. And then, I started watching like Emily D. Baker and like Ricada and stuff. And then it
Okay.
wasn't until, like I never really like jumped in chats or anything like that. And it wasn't until, like drama and all that happened that, finding some of the more smaller creators. And then, I followed like the expert from one of those streams. And I think I just stumbled into one of his live streams and just started chatting. And I think like, I think it was a White Rabbit brought up my avatar and was like, oh, look at this person. I wonder, if that's actually her.
Yeah, actually, the White Rabbit had a great idea on a poll. So I did put a poll in the chat. How do you spell donut as a general rule? DONUT, or the other way that I had to look and type as I was spelling. So obviously, you know which one I did. So, yeah, you guys look like you have so much fun together. So I've been on there once or twice, but in general, I really like just kind of stopping back and listening. So, and when did you start your own YouTube? Because I found it, but I don't know when you started it. So when did you actually start on YouTube yourself, and what made you decide to do that?
It was actually from one expert's chat. So I think I probably started it maybe September or October last year, but I didn't really do much with it because I'm actually like really self-conscious being in front of the camera, and it was just kind of like thinking of what I wanted to do.
What you wanted to do.
Yeah, so that was sort of like the more difficult thing. So I think I was like literally in the chat one day, and I'm like, "Oh, you guys make me want to start a YouTube channel."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Start it! We'll be your first subscribers."
I think I remember that actually.
Yeah.
I saw her avatar and said, "Look at that avatar. She is beautiful." So yes.
Yeah. So the White Rabbit discovered me.
The White Rabbit. We are going to credit you with the discovery of Melissa Jane. So on your channel, and speaking of that, White Rabbit has an awesome shorts channel with Brown Dog and Blue Dog. So if you love dogs, as you guys know I do, since they bomb everything, you want to go check her channel out as well. So yeah, I really like you guys. Like I said, I've been on several different channels, but with the expert, unless I'm picking at him over something, like I was like going downtown Nashville with your windows rolled down in a sports car in an area of town that the only reason that he should be there is because he wants to purchase something or someone. I picked on him a little bit for that, but other than that, I just kind of relax back. And Volstorm said, "Not gonna lie,
that's the perfect channel for that.
Yeah,
Fun tube,
perfect.
no drama.
Fun tube.
Yeah,
not gonna lie,
just a place to chill out,
to hang out. Not gonna lie, when she started popping up in chat, I was like, she's hot. Now I think she's awesome all around. So I would agree with that statement. But I also think,
Oh, that's so
awesome.
funny.
And then more bragging on Mel. I did promise that I didn't prompt them through this. It's just so easy. Yes, at Mel is beautiful inside and out. And yeah, I would agree with that. It's one of those things where when you're on, you can just tell when someone's having fun and when somebody's not. So,
Yeah,
and did I hear from somebody, and I don't remember who, probably expert, I don't remember, that you're going to be streaming soon.
it would have been expert.
Okay, okay. So are you going to
Yeah.
be streaming soon?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay.
I just need to figure out what I'm gonna do first. I just need to do it. So it's just
Yeah.
building up enough courage to actually be like, okay, this is when I'm gonna go live and,
Yeah.
figure out what I'm gonna do and do it.
That's one of the
So,
reasons that I picked doing it on Sundays, because I actually had originally a show with Scott Cardinal on Sundays, but he tries to do more, personal stuff on Sundays.
mhm.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to just pick up this time slot, because I am very, very new. I think this is like my 13th stream.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to be somewhere that I could learn what to
Yep.
do, or just as importantly, what not to do in a lot of cases. I think I've learned more about what not to do than what to do. But one of the things that I really like about it is the big community of people that are like, hey, if you need me, let me know. She and I were talking backstage before about some of the drama that can come with YouTube, that we're like, yeah, we don't want
Yeah.
to get in all of that. And I will tell you, sometimes people can be mean. I've had them in my streams. I've had them on my chats to videos. You just kind of got to ignore, because most of them are actually very decent, very nice. And most of the ones that have nasty comments, if you answer them back, I love saying thank you for the feedback with no mean. And
Yeah.
a lot of times they'll turn into be the one of your best people to watch. I've got one accused me of, I gave out a stat about men in the 1800s living to somewhere in their 40s, and she's like, well, either you're stupid or you're lying. I said, actually, I'm not both. I'm talking about this city in Tennessee, and you have to remember
Yeah.
this is a rural area, et cetera, et cetera. That's one of my biggest fans now. So it's like, I'm like, I'm actually doing neither, but thank you for your feedback. So I think it would be really awesome. And like I said, seriously, I think that if you did workshops on how to
Mm,
do some of this stuff,
that's a
because if
great
you,
idea.
yeah, because I mean, a lot of them charge, I don't know, anywhere from 25 to $100 to do, even
Mm,
if they're pre-recorded, right? Because I like learning from people that are actually doing it, not
yeah.
someone that's talking so far above my head that I'm like,
Because
okay,
that's
I
how I
need a
learnt most of
dictionary
it.
for
I
this
literally
course.
just have to. I like that's how I learnt best, is to
Yeah,
just mess around and do things. Even though I hate making mistakes, I can't stand it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just like I have to fiddle around with things for myself. So it's just like, if I can't do something, I Google it, which is so funny because my husband, picked up photography like after me. So from me doing it, he's like got a love now of doing photography, but he does a lot of car like photography, and he'll
yeah, cool,
also
yeah.
shoot his football games. And then he'll be like, then he'll constantly be like, oh, Mel, how do you do this? Mel, how do you do that? And I'm like, I'm sure I didn't do this when I was learning. I'm like, Google it.
You like it? Google and YouTube. I mean, the other day I was trying to figure out how to do something with the car, and oh, I know it was. I got my oil change, and you would think you pay to get your oil change that they would reset the oil light, right? Well, they didn't. And
Oh no.
so and of course, I'm talking and working, and I get all the way home, realize I didn't set the freaking oil light back on.
Yeah.
So I had to YouTube how to do it. I don't know how we knew how to do anything before YouTube, because by the time
I
you looked it
know.
up in the encyclopedia, it was old, right? So we live in this fast pace. So, question I have to ask you, because this is a request from a granddaughter that's very interested in drawing and photography. If you were starting today, or you had a
Mhm.
daughter or a niece or a friend starting today, and you wanted to go into this as a profession for a living, what would you want someone to tell you? So, what
Um,
advice would you have for her? Because she's 14, just for context, and starting drawing and wanting to do photography with her art and all of that. So, what would you tell yourself if you were starting today?
it's just to immerse yourself in it. It's more just like go just constantly looking at photography. Just it's one thing. It's just like just train your eye. Just look out for things. So I think that's what I'm kind of realized that I did without anyone kind of telling me. It's just kind of like look for the details and just look
Okay.
for something where you think there's nothing.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's just the one thing, like especially if you want to do like art photography or even landscape or anything like that. Like that's just my way of doing my photography is I like to look at details, and it's just kind of like stop and look.
Okay.
So yeah.
So what is your favorite medium? What's your favorite subject to do?
Well, I love
I would think it
landscape
wouldn't be
stuff.
weddings for some reason. I would think weddings would make you want to stab yourself with a pencil after a while.
Oh,
But yeah.
I've actually shot two weddings, and they were both. So one I did with someone because they asked me to help out, and the other one was that photographer that I helped out couldn't do this wedding because she was moving interstate. And she's just,
Okay.
and then they asked me to do it, and it was so a girl that I worked with. It was her best friend, and she was actually in the bridal party and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh well, at least I
A
it'll
little
be
bit
all
more
right.
relaxed going into
Yeah,
it because I don't know. I
yeah,
watched
and it was,
that.
and they're like, because like I met up with them and stuff like that beforehand. I'm like, oh, is there anything you particularly want or don't want? Is there any particular style? Because that's the thing. So like, I think that's one thing that people don't realize about photographers. It's so funny because whenever anyone asks me, like whenever I say I'm a photographer, they're like, "Oh, you shoot weddings and christenings," and I'm like,
No.
"No,
You're like, no, I do
no,
not do that.
no."
Yeah.
Is that everybody? Like even doing real estate, everybody has their own style. Everybody develops their own eye. So it's just like, don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Just do what you like.
What you
And
like and what you're doing.
yeah, what you think. So when I first first learnt, I would go out and shoot sunrises.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
I would get up early and I would just shoot sunrises. Like I didn't have anything particular that I was just shooting. I just had the location, and I just started shooting. Just shoot
So I
away.
didn't think of
That's
that
the
like
best thing.
start with one thing and then kind of develop
Yeah.
the eye, and then I guess it gets easier
Yeah, exactly. The more
to
that you
go
kind
over.
of looking at photos, the more that you're looking at your own stuff, the more that you realize, okay, this is what I like. And then because I wanted more practice, I actually reached out to a makeup artist. And
Okay.
so we worked together. So she was just like, oh, so that she would get a model, she would do the makeup for the model, and then I would photograph it. So we all had images.
Okay.
So we're all kind of, like using the images for all different stuff. And so it was a good way for me to practice. So I worked with one makeup artist for a few shoots, and it was so much fun. It's just like, all right, let's just pick a location.
Because
And
those
let's
two
just
things really do
it.
go together because you're taking
Yeah.
something from one kind of space and then you're transforming it to another space. Great Dane says she's got to head out, catch up on the replay. Great live stream. Thank
Aw.
you so much. You're sweet. Squad Bob, I don't know that I understand your question, but that would not be unusual for me because
Probably
I am
okay.
from Tennessee, as I keep telling you, not Alabama, not Georgia, not Florida. So tell us about the purple lighting. At the
It's just the color
expert
I
just
like.
got a weird mirror ball that makes me nervous that he's gonna start dancing with pointed fingers.
Expert's turning his room into a disco.
Disco, yeah,
Yeah.
disco would be a good thing.
Hmm.
I think the purple light's pretty. People ask me about the blue, and I'm like, it's not intentional. I just like blue.
Yeah, it's
So
just like I just like the pink. So, like the globe is this color change. And I think it was actually crystal clear. She actually told me about the globes because it was just like when I did like my first couple of videos, I'm just like, man, this kind of looks boring. And
yeah,
then I think Crystal sent me the link to the globes. I'm like, oh, that'd be a really great idea because I've got the lamp behind me that I can kind of shine a different color, and it'll just give a little bit more visual interest.
more visual interest. Yeah, that's the same here. I think I got these lights for like $10 on Amazon.
Yeah, it was.
Just to
Amazon
put
was
a little
pretty cheap.
extra. And then I had a TV that kept glaring, so I found that. I have a thing for elements too. So I put that on it just to kind of cover that up. Otherwise, it kind of glares back at me. It drives me
Yeah.
insane. But hello, wait. It's my advice to your 14-year-old granddaughter, but daughter, all boys lie. Yeah, I tell her the only thing
Yeah.
that never lies to her is math. And of course, she rolls her eyes at me, but she's unfortunately figuring that out as we go that,
Yeah.
that it can get kind of interesting. So, I try to, stick to time just to respect your time, respect everybody's time. Let's say Crystal Clear says, yes, they're on Amazon. You can change the color and the tone. They're
Yeah.
super cheap too and super expensive if you buy the wrong brand. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But these are literally just tape. Like you just tape them on the back.
I've also got a tape light as well. So when I first started doing TikToks, I bought like a strip light. So I've like also on the side I've got the strip light, but the light
TikTok
doesn't
I have not
translate
embraced.
here.
I have not embraced yet. I know that I need to, especially with the dog shorts, but
Yeah.
because I put up a few
Well,
and they've done well, and I'm just like, I just don't know. It makes me tired to think about TikTok, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. But
I don't
get there
actually
eventually.
use the app anymore. I only really use it because of the editing capabilities within TikTok.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's a lot more
yeah.
advanced than YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, yeah. And YouTube Shorts, at least YouTube's finally, given some more algorithm time to shorts. I think they did a little bit
Yeah.
late in the game compared to TikTok, but
Yeah.
I am glad. So if you guys, thank you guys for watching again. Melissa, what do you got coming up? What you got coming up? We can find you on Fridays at the Expert Channel.
Yep. And hopefully I'm trying to film something this week. So hopefully I'll have a video out. Fingers crossed.
Cool. That should be amazing. Next week, I am going to have Shelly, aka T3, Talking Trash and Truths, who everyone thinks we're the same person. And we do tend to
Really?
say things. Well, because when we're on the stream, we say things at the same time, like all of the time. So we're going to talk a little
That's so
bit
funny.
more about tarot cards. We've had a Clumsy Clairvoyant on, but we're also going to talk about, intuition and kind of, the gut feeling of seeing your route back through that. I also have a couple of new videos I'm filming this week, hopefully have up. One, if you're struggling, especially in the US, to provide for your family, because we know inflation is rough. Sometimes it's hard to come to basics. Well. I'm going to have Southern Savers on. I'm going to tape that. Probably may have it as a live with me in the chat. I haven't decided yet. And then also Carnivorous Me is coming on. She's someone who set a goal at the beginning of the year. Unlike me, she's actually keeping her New Year's resolutions that I tend to make, and I'm done by February 2nd. So thank you guys. I want to thank you to Melissa Jane. I am thrilled and honored that you came on. Guys, please be nice to each other. Be nice to everybody in the chat. And we will see you next week, wherever you are in the world, whether it's today or in the case of our guest tomorrow for me. Hope you enjoy. Thanks, guys. Bye.